All right. Well, again, welcome everyone. Keep your microphones on mute, just unless you have a question or a comment. Feel free to come off at any time. So we're talking about Cornerstone Conversations. This is actually a little past the mid-year of our performance cycle. I can't believe it. We're going to be at the end of May very soon. So we're going to be through this performance cycle. And that's what we're talking about today as far as our focus. That's this check-in during the mid-year. Now, I just want to get a little temperature check while we're here. I'm going to throw a quick poll up into the chat. Really quick, what's your level of familiarity with Cornerstone? Have you been in there? You had not had a chance to get in there yet? Let's see where we're all at. No right or wrong answers, just a little temperature check for us as we're settling in. So I'll give that a second or two for everybody who's here. Go ahead and answer that, and we'll see where we are. So far, another second, most people have had a chance to get in there, even have approved goals. That's great. Some of us, it's quite new. That's fine as well. All right, just want another second to chime in there if you like. It gives us a sense of who we are and maybe a sense of who we can go to if we have questions or a little bit of support, a little bit of your support.
Oh, what did you say?
Oh, can I ask you to mute your microphone? Those of you who might be speaking to someone else, just go ahead and press the mute button. There you go. Thank you so much. All right. All right, we're going to stop that before we're going to go ahead. So lots of people have had a chance to get goals in there. A few have just poked around and we saw some new folks in there. So that's fine. This is the first time, it's our first full year of Cornerstone Conversations as a performance management process and a tool. And just as a quick review, we do have three main elements to our performance process. The beginning of the year, and that starts with our fiscal year, we're planning for the year ahead. So we're setting our goals. We're thinking about learning and development that might support those goals. And we're talking about career development as well. Where do we see ourselves as we're growing? How can we get there and talk about those things? Then we come to the mid-year check-in where we are now. And this is simply a status check, if you will. It's, are we on track? Are we off track? And we're going to focus a lot about that today, of course. Towards the end of the year, when we wrap up things about September 30th now, that's our fiscal year for everyone. We will have our performance review, the annual review. And hopefully at this point in the year, it will simply be a really good summary of the things that we have been sharing and talking about all the way through the year. So as you can see, we have three sort of formal times where we're checking with the system, but we hope that that's just the minimum actually amount of times that you might be using it as a great tool for ongoing conversations. That's the real, value of doing a little bit of work, documenting things and having things to come back to so that we can have good dialogue and we can celebrate our successes. We can, of course, correct a little bit, if we're off track, if we need support, or if things have changed. All right. And once again, I'll ask if you're speaking or have other things going on, can you please mute your microphone for us? And feel free to come off mute if you have anything to share or question. Please feel free again to add in chat too if you have something to share or a question for us. So we are right here. We're in the mid-year check-in kind of formal process. Now I'll ask the group too, this is quite new. It's one of the first times we've had a formal check-in integrated into our process. And I know some people have done that, just they've been practicing that on their own individually. Your leaders have done it, you have done it. But why would we do a mid-year check-in? What might be the benefits of taking a moment out and actually, thinking about where we are and documenting that? Anybody have a thought around that?
Were you satisfied with our overall service today? If yes, press 1. If no, how good was our overall service today? Excellent, press 1.
And still there's some folks maybe that might have their I'm going to mute everyone just to make sure that we can. So I see some things in chat to make sure that you're on track to complete goals. And yeah, that's basically it, right? We want to just take a pause out and proactively have an opportunity to talk about where we are, which leads to a lot of success towards the end of the year and gives us a chance to make some changes if we need to. And we also want to remember that while we're doing this, we're celebrating as well. So let's build on what Kim has to say and what we might all be thinking and having experiencing. And Richard also says, ask how goals have evolved or changed. Absolutely. So we're starting with that progress update, as Kim mentioned. Are we on track or off? Then we sort of, we want to find out, why that might be and have a chance to check that and support it and see if things have changed since the beginning of the year. It's a long time, 12 months, right? When we start off to the year and what can happen in between. So we really don't want to encounter surprises if we can, if we can help that. So we want to make sure that we celebrate and support our wins along the way. We might celebrate new learning acquired, even if that's not part of, the actual performance goal. Just the fact that we take time to learn and apply that new learning is improvement. And also, the good, the neutral, and the things that might need correction are all great points of dialogue during our check-ins. So it's not all about, correction. It's not all about things that are, challenging us. But certainly we want to, have an opportunity to talk about that and troubleshoot and problem solve together. We also put a lot of effort into understanding what was working at Wayne State and what, might be improved when it comes to performance management. So we had a very extensive team work on this all across campus. We had members from every school, college, and division. We used a lot of benchmarking and research, and we took in to consideration the ideas that we had, and we found that having this check along the way is really an important step. So those are just some of the reasons why we're pausing out to make sure that we integrate this into our process. All right. A lot of these resources are available to you on the website, and I'm going to make sure you have all of these links as well. So the first one I'm going to even throw your way is something that we call our key dates. The website itself is an HR website. I'm going to put this link in the chat for you. And it would be what I would think of as our source of truth. So the most updated things should be there, to the best of our nature, we get them up there. And if things change, that's where we'll go first. So I would encourage, you to go there for your resources, for updates, for information, and the latest information. And I would encourage, encourage our leaders to do that as well. So these are the dates that have to do with the mid-year check-in. The system opens for the mid-year check-in actually next week on June 1st. This is probably actually a week from today. And then we have about 2 weeks or so as employees to put in our thoughts and our examples, our information around how we're doing on our goals. So we have a couple weeks to do that, get in the system. We can come in and out of the system. We don't have to do it all at one sitting. And I'll show you how to do all of that. And then we'll submit that information, and our managers will get a prompt. And they'll get a notification to complete the mid-year check-in for you, right? So every time we put in our mid-year check-in, we submit it, our manager will get a notification to go ahead and go in there and take a look at it as well. They'll make their input just like we have done. And hopefully we'll be talking about that as well, right? We're using this as a tool, but we're having great conversations based on that. And then once we do that, we'll acknowledge that. We'll go back in one more time. And by July 28th, we hope to complete the process, right? So we come in with input, managers come in with input, we acknowledge, we talk about those things, we have good discussion, make our action plans, and then we're moving ahead, with the year as it's progressing. The system will look officially closed on July 31st. So as we look through our tasks and our landing page in Cornerstone, I'll show you where you will see all those things. But those are just some key dates to keep in mind as we're getting into this space together. Any questions about that? And we'll also have time at the end of the session if we want to talk about anything that we haven't covered, and even beyond just these steps for mid-year check-in. All right, so now we're going to get into a walkthrough. I am also going to put into chat for you right now a document. It's called the Staff Guide. It's basically a user manual or a job aid. and it will walk you through all of these steps. So no need to memorize things today, but if something sticks out to you or you have a question, this is our time together. You can also talk to your human resources consultant. So they are always available to answer questions for you as well. Hop in and chat as well so that you have these resources as we're talking about them. All right, so a tip for you. Now, most of us have put in goals. We've had a chance to input things, but there's a few of us who haven't had a chance to do that yet. Wherever you are in that stage, you will be able to complete this mid-year check-in. Just if you put information in, and if it's been approved goals that you're working on, it's going to pre-populate those for you. So it'll be, easy to see. You'll be able to go right through all of your goals, think about your progress and so forth. If you haven't had a chance to do that, or if you haven't had goals approved by your manager yet, they're not going to pre-populate. That's the only difference. They'll be in the system if you put them in, but they might be, in some status process themselves, not quite approved yet. Maybe they changed or you didn't input them. You'll still be able to complete the mid-year check-in, and it still will be a great opportunity, to get that process going, or at least to, start from where you are. So don't worry about that. You can see page 4 in this guide that I've just put in the chat for you. And again, there's some videos and job aids for you that, specifically just show you how to do each step. So you can get the help when you need it and, as much or as little as you need. Now, if you have been using the system and using touch points, those are little agendas that help you, prepare for a conversation. It might be a performance conversation. It might be a professional development or a career conversation. Those are agendas that are tools right in the system. So if you have those going, we would always encourage you to take a look at those as well before you start the mid-year check-in. And if you have none of those things, maybe you just have notes, maybe you've had conversations together with your manager. Of course, this would be a great time to review any of the input that you have that can help you, come back to this place in time, bring back information into the conversation and so forth. So utilize those things, but remember that if you haven't done them yet, Cornerstone's a great place to put all that information into one place so you don't have to look for it, and you can both access that information at your fingertips. All right, so those are my tips. Make a copy of your performance plan before you go in, review any other information that might help you, have a great conversation to check status and performance. So when you go into Cornerstone, most of you will recognize this. And for those of you who are new, this is the landing page. Now, all of the things that you do as far as a task, like the 3 steps in our process, are going to be at the very bottom of your landing page. And it will say basically your tasks, and it'll list them there. And you can see it right now this year, on June 1st, next week, you'll see a new task that'll say complete mid-year check-in. And that's where you'll find it. When you go into the system, then you'll see right where you are in these 3 steps. We put input in first as an employee. Our manager then will get a chance to review it. They'll be prompted to take a look at it and add their information. And then we'll go back in with an acknowledgement. And you can see those dates we began to talk about and how that might flow out. Okay. Now that very first step will have a little sub-steps along the way. And basically this is the information that you put in at the beginning of the year. So we're just going to come back to that and step through it. And then we're going to make our comments and kind of show our progress in some areas. And that'll be it. So let's walk through that part of it together. I'm going to come out of this for 1 second and see if I can go right into the system. I'm going to use just a sandbox environment. This is not a real live system like we would access every day. So no one's going to be affected by this at all. And I'm using my friend and colleague, Cindy Pello, as an example. So she won't see this. This will all go away when we're done today. But as you can see, right at the bottom of our task, here's where we'll find the complete mid-year check-in. So I'm going to try to step through this in the sandbox system and see if we can go through what we would experience together. All right, so I am in the process of the employee input mid-year check-in. You can see it right here, those 3 boxes we talked about. On the left, you'll always see kind of where you are at in this process. And you can use these to navigate, so you can click on them and it'll take you right to that page. So you can click around. You don't have to go in order, but you will have to complete all the steps. So this will give you your progress as you complete the steps. So let's get started. We'll click on the green button at the bottom. Sometimes we have to wait just a little bit for the system to catch up with us. All right, now here's our first area, and if we had put performance goals in here that were approved by our managers, early on, like September, October, whenever, the beginning of this year, we're going to see them here. So there's always a little bit of an overview, and there's also links to job aids or learning resources if you need them right here in the system, right on the spot. So you can always get your consultant, the user guides that I've put in chat for you, they're all right here. But again, if you have approved goals, they're going to populate here. If you don't have approved goals, you won't see any information here, but that's okay. All right. You can still step through just submitting and continuing on. That's why we also say it's a good idea to have your performance plan printed out or in a PDF before you begin this process, just in case you want to review them. But for Cindy, she's got her goals right here. I can see what her goal is. There's a title of it. She has got some progress or not. Maybe that's up to date or not. That's okay. This is a time where we could make some adjustments. This arrow here where you have more options, I can actually go in and manage these goals a little bit. I can add some attachments. I can put some more comments in there, make small edits. So we can do that. Now, if I make edits to the actual goal itself, the weight of it or the progress, the system will take it, but of course, it's going to flag my manager to approve those as well. Because when we make big changes, of course, we want to make sure that we're talking about that together. So you can do it, but it's going to want your manager to approve those with you. All right, so this is where we think we are, Cindy. Let's see, we're behind schedule a little bit. We want to look at our start and end dates. The due date is actually a prior year. The due date should actually be sometime in 2023, all the way up to September 30th. So you might want to take a look at those as well. This was the weight. So about 25% of what I was doing this year, what Cindy was doing, is around these development opportunities. So I'm looking at that. If I had any comments in here, I might look at those. I might review my performance plan. And based on all of that, I'm going to now select a status rating. So here comes our mid-year check progress. Are we at risk? Are we behind schedule? Do we think we're on track, or we've completed this goal? Actually, this was one of our early goals in the year and we're done. So I am going to say, just if this is true, I'm just having a little bit at risk. I need, some help. I might type in some comments here while I'm thinking about it. Why do I need it? What has changed? So we have all that opportunity right in here to write some stuff. CHANGED. I can't even spell change right now. All right, so we have lots of options here, but our main goal in the mid-year check-in is to review this goal, add our comments, and decide where we're at, just so we can talk about that. And we're going to go through that with however many goals we have. So here comes her second goal. Who know, this could be wrong, that she could have finished it. The weight could have been changed, but depending on that, I'm going to select, that maybe I'm behind on that. Some comments. Why? What's going on? What do I need? This goal is completely taken off of my responsibilities this year. Things have changed. So as you can see, we're just going to keep stepping through all the way down. We're going to select where we're at. I'm good with this goal. Here's why. Completed this goal. Here's what went well. Here's something to learn for next year. And this last goal, feel really good about that. Here's why. Okay, so that's how many goals Cindy had. And we simply stepped through them all. I thought about them. I'd made my progress, determination. And I do want to tell you that you see these little question marks here. Anytime you see this green question mark and you hover over it, you can see that it'll give you more information. And when it comes to these progress tracking, this just helps us remember what we mean by, being at risk, being behind schedule, or on track, and so forth. So if you need to refresh your memory, how are we looking on that? How am I supposed to judge that? Well, this might help me, given everything. All right, so I've done, those are all my goals. Now I can save and exit and go out right now. Oops, if you, I see a couple things. If your goals are on track, you have to provide a comment. Benita, comments are completely up to you, and same thing with your manager. I would say put things in here that help you assess why things, are great, or why things are, challenging, or how things have changed. Whatever helps you, grow, develop, take that goal forward next year, whatever makes sense for you and your management and your team would be what I would put in the comment area. You're welcome. All right. So if I go back, just so you know, it won't keep, it generally doesn't keep what I have on the screen in front of me. So going back just sends me back to the overview or the step previous, right? So if I want to get out of here and not complete it, save and exit, and it will save your information and you can come back in. But if I'm ready to continue, then I'll just hit the green button. It's usually green, so you know right where you are. Now, because I just did the goals, you can see my completion bar is moving up now. Now, even if I just checked in the goal area and I didn't finish them, this bar would still move. So it's just basically saying, hey, I've been in these steps here along the way. But obviously make sure that you've completed the information that's helpful to you as well, so that you have a track record of what you've done. Now, this is the values area, which was a new area for us as well. Not that it's new that we have values, right? Of course we do, but we are integrating them because we know that it's just as important how we do our work as it is the things we accomplish. Both are important to a culture of excellence here at Wayne State. So we've been trying to integrate our values, and we put them right along with our development and our performance. So you can see just a review of our Wayne State values. You see the value, a definition, some of the behaviors, what does it look like when we're experiencing that with others, and when we're, demonstrating that in our day-to-day. We might just consider all of them, but we also might think about ones that might be really exceptional and really important to our particular goals this year. Because all our values are important, of course, but there may be some that really stand out this year. Maybe we've had a brand new goal, a brand new system, something we've never done before. And innovation is really important for us this year, to be thinking outside the box. So that's how I would take a look at these values. And we've reviewed them, and now we're thinking about them overall. And again, here's a task that we haven't done in the past, maybe. And that is to say, given those values, given my goals this year, do I feel like, things have been aligned with that? Has it been kind of inconsistent? Maybe there's some new things I need to learn. Or, do I feel like those things are being demonstrated, that I have strengths in them? And I would select that. So I'm going to say, I'm pretty good, but there's a couple things sometimes that I might need some reminders on, or I have a strength and I don't see this somewhere else. Again, here's a place to put comments. So I'm thinking about why, or what happens, good outcomes as well as challenging outcomes when this behavior, up here is happening, or I really see this happening, or again, I don't sometimes see this and it would help me. So that's what we're thinking about here. So you choose what you feel, you add your comments in here around the values overall. And then I'm going to save and continue. Now, if I don't do something that's required, you're not going to get the opportunity to save. All right. It's going to prompt you, oops, go back and finish this. So the system will help you with that. Now, some of us have put in professional development plans in here. There were 3 question prompts, if you will. And this is where, again, I would go back to my performance plan if I hadn't, because you may not see some of that information here. This is a reminder. This is a time to add things if I haven't, just to talk about where I am. If I haven't even started it, again, a good time to start typing in some, now that it's been a few months, I feel like, this new system is really calling for a skill we haven't had, or we don't have this particular process in place. We need to learn this. Those are great opportunities. Remember, this is just a progress check-in. So it gives us time to talk about it and maybe go find, a source for that, a resource, whatever we need to be successful. So that's what I would look at in these 3 questions. Again, all around skills, knowledge and abilities are learning. So I might have had goals, maybe I start some new ones. Have I made some progress in there? Do I have some barriers to learning? Is my schedule, it's my workload, what's happening, so I can't even get to this yet? What's going on? And what support? What problem shooting, troubleshooting can I do? Problem solving? What answers do I have to be part of the solution that I can talk about with my manager? And then we'll save and continue. Now we're almost there. I'm taking probably more time than it will take you to do this, obviously, so that we can answer questions. But career development is similar, except that instead of talking about what we need today to do our job, we're thinking a little bit about where I'd like to be, in a year or 2 or 3. And we're asking questions. We may not even know the answers to those things, but this is a time where we can explore and come back to it. And we can, guide our career, guide our pathway in those directions as we're working together. So you have an opportunity in your manager to capture those things right here again with regards to our career. So there's prompts in here. There's, again, job aids and other learning resources for you if, this is the first time you've done something like this. So, avail yourselves of those resources as well. All right. And then we're going to save and continue. Now, we've basically done the bulk of kind of looking back on these first 6 months, right? We've looked at our goals, where we are with our learning, how we're thinking about our career. And now we're going to, we're in a good place to give a summary of where we feel we're at overall. So this is where the mid-year status comes in. And for those of you, again, who I said you didn't maybe get goals in here yet, or they're not approved, this is why you can still complete the mid-year check-in no matter what you're experiencing right now. This page is here for everybody, just like these are, but this is where we would then go ahead and make some comments and select whether we're on track or off. So again, no matter where you were, you'll have this opportunity right here, even if you don't see goals in here. So we can think about, as I consider all these things, right? And they're all right here for me. Do I feel that overall I'm kind of at risk? If I continue on like this and nothing changes, we're going to be struggling to get this done, or, there's things that are just big roadblocks for me. Maybe I'm just behind schedule. We're on track with some things, off track on others. Maybe there's a delay. But, there are things that can be overcome if we talk about them or if we put some things in place. And then, of course, there's just on track. Everything's going pretty well. But that doesn't mean that we still don't need some support and some planning together. But, for the most part, if everything goes like this, we're probably going to be, right on target. So that's what you're going to do here. You're going to select based on that where you think you're at. And one last time to put in some comments on why. Why did I say this rating? That's really when I think about comments that I want to put in is what substantiates that? Why do I feel that way? And it doesn't, again, it may not be right or wrong, good or bad at all. It's just, that's why I'm thinking this is the information I'm using. And that's what we want to share together. And that's what, is the basis of some great conversation as well. And that is the mid-year check-in. So now I'm going to submit it. Now you can see I see this green button because I have completed the steps. So it gives me the opportunity to submit it. If I hadn't completed something, like if I needed to rate something or put a comment in there and I didn't do it, it wouldn't let me submit it. It would just say save or, go back. So again, there's a fail safe in here for you. So I feel pretty good about it. Or I could exit, right? Save it and exit though. If you do go out and you want to come back and just think about it, reread it the next day. That's good too to do, right? Just get a fresh, clear head. All right, but I feel good. I'm going to submit it. I get one more chance. Yep, I really do want to, or no, whoops, let me just, wait a minute. I clicked that a little bit too soon. All right, now you can see that in Cindy's tasks, remember at the bottom, it said complete mid-year check-in. That's gone because now I've done it. And so the system has sent it away. It's captured it. And now Cindy's supervisor is going to see that Cindy's mid-year check-in is ready. Now, I'm not going to spend as much time on that piece of it because, oops, let's go back here and see if it'll let me. Let me just show you as a supervisor what's going to happen, and then we'll come back to our final step. So that was the first step. We put in input. Next step, Supervisors get that prompt. And that I think is Vicky. Remember, I'm just in the pilot right now, the sandbox. So nothing is really going in here. I'm going to try to show you what should happen for your manager. And the system might take a second to catch up, but let's just see how lucky we get. If we get lucky. Come on, look at that. All right. So yes, look at that. The technical gods are favoring us today. Look in Vicky's. This is her landing page. That's Cindy's supervisor. At the very bottom, our tasks, our open tasks are right here. And there it is. It says complete manager mid-year check-in for Cindy. So now we know that we're going to go through the same thing that you just did. Now I am really going to bolt through this because you know what's going on already, right? So this is Vicky. She gets the same thing except for she's in the manager mid-year check-in. The employee already did the first part. She's going to get started. And just like we did, she's going to go through all those steps and, and get refreshed with what we've been talking about all year long. We're going to see comments that Cindy wrote. I think it's still thinking. And we'll be able to talk about things together and document things together, which is really nice. So what's happening here? Well, I can see what Cindy wrote. See, here's Cindy's comments. And as we just did this, remember? So as her manager, I can see, well, she rated a 1 at risk, what it is, why this would have been my lovely good comments, not just my typing with us, or I changed, things change, right? So I can see that as her manager. So I see where she is. I see her comments, her rating. I actually agree with her. I feel like she's at risk as well. I'm going to write why I think that. And every goal, we're going to do the same thing. I might agree. I might not agree. It's okay. But I want to write why and capture that. And on this one, you know what, Cindy, you think you're behind, but I think you're on track. Look, here's why, or this has changed. Of course, that's the kind of conversation, again, that you hope is not just here in Cornerstone, that we're talking about it, right? But this is still a great place to make sure, I forgot to mention that to her. It's just a great tool to use. So I'm going through all of them. If I skip one, it's not going to let me go forward. So again, it's going to have its own little fail safe. Yeah, double check my spelling, right? My spelling is bad. I'm not worrying about it right now. But it's going to help me as much as it can. But okay, so I've done all that for Cindy's goals. I'm going to save and continue. And you're getting the flow now, right? She's going to go through the same thing with the values like we did. Think about them overall. Think about Cindy's goals. Select where she feels she is. Typing in comments again. Save and continue. All right, same thing with professional development. I'm going to, again, move this along now because I know you understand it a little bit more and more. We're going to do that for career management, add our thoughts and notes in there as well. Hey, you did a great job on this. Congratulations on completing this training or certification. And now we come to that whole summary page. So once again, even if approved goals were not in here, managers, employees have an opportunity to say, hey, overall, I feel like I'm here. Given everything, I feel like I'm here. And I see what Cindy wrote as a manager. I agree with that. I don't. And here's why. Here's what I want to talk about. Remind me to talk about this. We didn't get a chance to talk about that. And then I finish out. All right. Same thing. She's going to type in her name as a signature. Final comments here. And then submit. Now the employee and the supervisor have completed almost all the steps. See, her task is gone to look at Cindy's. Now, Vicky as a manager has her check-in to do too, right? Because she's an employee as well. So every person is going through this in the same way, the same process with their supervisors and managers. All right, the very last thing I'm going to do is try to get you back. Now we're going to go back to our screen with Cindy. You can see how the system is following us. And again, it may lag behind just the teeniest bit. You won't have to do this. I'm just doing this because it's the sandbox system. See if I can get you back to Cindy where we started. And this will be the third and final step in the mid-year check-in. Did I get back to Cindy? Yep, okay. Well, I don't know if it's going to give it to me or not. So let's try one more time. The bottom line here is just that once again, you should have a prompt. There we go. So you can see we're back to Cindy. She put in information, her manager put in information, and here's our final step. Now this is the completion, right? We did already put our information in. It didn't start from the beginning, but now we're just going to acknowledge, and you can see we're in that very last step. And this is what we're doing all the way through the end of July. So we have all this time to kind of go through these steps. We don't have to do it all in one day, but I'm not going to finish this out with you today, but you're going to probably already anticipate what I would show, right? You're going to go back through and just acknowledge that you read, because you want to see what your manager's written in here too. You want to make sure that you're going through it. So there's Vicky's ratings, right? And her comments. And remember, this is just a status progress check. This is not an annual review. We're just looking at where we're at about halfway through the year. So once again, she'll see everything. We can have it together. We could talk about it. All right, I'm going to get out of this for right now, unless there's a question around any of those kind of technical steps in the system that I've shown you. And while you're thinking, I'm just going to pop back over to my screen. Oops, sorry. There we go. All right, so basically we have done all these things, right? We did the employee input first. The manager went in and reviewed our tasks, and then we ended up with the employee acknowledgement. And as you saw, you kind of just step right through those same things, and you continue to build on, your comments, tracking your progress, calling out wins and great, great achievements along the way, and challenges and barriers that you face. And so there should be no surprise by the end of the year. Hopefully, this is really inspiring some great conversation, some ability to take action. It really is a lot easier to, take action on things when we have some clear planning and some common understanding, and we get through any, like we say, challenges or barriers along the way, and we'll get a chance to fix those before we get to the end of the year. No surprises. All right, now. Cornerstone Conversations has two words: Cornerstone, which is just the tool, but Conversations is really we use that word in particular to call this performance management process that particular name, Conversations, because really the most important thing is the dialogue that we have, right, and the actions we're able to take, and the real partnership that we build together as employees and supervisors to really set us up for success. So Cornerstone is great. It's got so much functionality and tools that you can talk about. Again, wins, you have touch point conversations. If those things are still new to you, that's okay. But little by little, I would encourage you to begin to explore them as you need them, because it really makes a lot of sense when you're actually in that phase or in that step and not have to remember everything overall. But those conversations along the way are what really let us take action and getting momentum. So think about, besides the tool and besides the technology itself, that great conversations really have some things in common. And that is this ability to agree on next steps, even if that next step is, oh, we need information. That next step might be, oh, let's schedule a one-on-one conversation. Let's talk to another area, another unit, because we didn't realize that we're affecting them or they impact us. Let's get some talk going on with them. And so that could be a next step that comes out of this. So when we agree on next steps and we get a real clarity of what each of us can take, what role do we play in it? That's what really yields some great outcomes. So Cornerstone Conversations as a tool, great, but the conversation that comes out of it, even better. And these are things that tend to happen when we're really utilizing this tool and this process well. So we might use that SMART approach. It's specific. We know what it'll look like if we do it. We have the tools and skills we need to do it. It's realistic and it has a time frame. Okay, I know what that's looking like now. Now I can tell you that I'm actually on or off track with that. It's a lot easier than, oh my gosh, the whole goal 12 months out, am I on or off track? Well, yeah, I feel like I'm on track. This really can help that. Great conversations also happen when both people are having a dialogue. So both people have questions, both people are learning, both people are unsure of some things. So we get the chance to work together, and we both contribute to an outcome that is a mutual outcome. In just the act of having a conversation, we build a lot of trust. We build our relationships because we're talking. We're hearing each other. We're listening to new things. We're understanding somebody else's perspective. So a lot is coming out of just a very simple, it could be a very short conversation. And just these planning steps. It's taken us longer to this webinar than it ever will for you to go into Cornerstone. But the planning, a little bit of planning as an investment yields a lot of great outcomes, in the moment, in your day-to-day work, and as a proactive way to get things done. So we really learn from one another when we do this. And of course, there's a certain amount of environment that we create together by how we approach things, by our ability to listen and respect one another, even if it's a healthy disagreement. Great things, innovations, new things happen because we don't see things the same way, and we're troubleshooting together, we're problem solving. So even in those types of scenarios, if we demonstrate respect and ability, and a desire, motivation to hear someone else out, that's really maybe all we need in that moment. We just need to know that somebody is willing to listen, and it does earn respect. Just some quick additional tips, and then we'll have time for real open forum here today. When I approach a conversation like this, I usually want to start with the end in mind, and that is, what do I want to get out of this at the end of the day? If I have a 5-minute one-on-one or a 20-minute or whatever it is, what do I want to get out of it? What should happen after this time together? And even if I take 5 minutes to think about that, I'm more likely to have that outcome because I can visualize it. It's harder to hit something when it seems gray, or it seems like I don't quite know. And even that's a great question. If that's where I'm at, how do I clarify that? So think about what you want to get out of it, and think about what the other person might be thinking about. Do they have different goals? Are our goals similar? How can I help them achieve what they're looking for too, as I work on my things? So just begin with the end in mind, and you're much more likely to have a conversation that is driving in that direction. When it comes to conversations like this as well, whether it's performance or professional development or so many conversations, if we have a great space to do that in, we're just as likely, we're more likely to have a great outcome. But it is just as important, I think that's what I meant to say, as just the what. The how is just as important. So think about the space you're in. Is it conducive for a conversation like this? Because that could be a barrier right there, and it has nothing to do with you or your manager or the work. It's loud. My kids are there, or whatever that distraction might be. Make sure that you have a physical space and an emotionally safe space to be in. And you can think about those things yourself. What generally adds to that, what generally doesn't. Let's see if we can create a better space for that. Thinking about your own triggers as well. What generally is not a great time, for me to talk about this. I'm just too tired at 7 o'clock at night. Let's not do it then. First thing in the morning, it's a good time for us. Let's see if we can find the right time. And then just this documentation, Cornerstone is a great place that you have the ability to come back to things that you talked about. You don't force yourself to remember things that are weeks ago, even yesterday can be difficult, right? With everything that comes our way. So use this as your tool for that reason, and a shared place of understanding. And then, of course, we both have a role. So take a very active role in your development, in your performance, of course. And we are the #1 person who's responsible for our performance. It's us. But our supervisor has their own role too, and that is to support us, to get barriers out of the way, to help us develop and grow, to be on our side in an honest way. So this is a way to get to that space. Now I see in chat, in fiscal year 24, will the mid-year check-in be around March to line fiscal year? That's a great question. We are a little bit late this year. And I think a lot of that just had to do with when pieces of the system were ready to turn on, to be quite frank, because this was our first year with Cornerstone, and each one of these modules was a separate module. So I believe that our fiscal year will start October 1st this year, and it'll end September 30th, 2024. So the mid-year check-in should be more, that I think March, April timeframe, right? So this year you're probably seeing some delays. You're also seeing some delays in our different populations across campus who are kind of adopting this as they go along or transitioning to this from previous processes and systems. So hopefully that answered your question. Thanks for asking that question. Yeah, you're welcome. All right. So again, back to the whole process. It's phased in along the year, and hopefully that is helpful to us because, starting out a year and then waiting till the end of the year and trying to, kind of think about all this at one time is really difficult. So all the research shows us, all of our benchmarking shows us that, if we do it in a cycle to the best of our ability, and these little prompts, these formal touch points in Cornerstone Conversations will help us remind us, let's try to get that in if we haven't. But we have learning to support you all throughout the year as well. So when you need it, and as new people, join us here in our teams, they can start with the introduction. They can come into starting to plan goals, thinking about ongoing conversations, doing this mid-year check-in, and then doing the end-of-year review. So let's make sure that you know where all those resources are. In the guide that I gave you in chat, I think the last page or so towards the end is a whole list of these resources and links. So they're in there for you. I also want to remind you that the website has all of these links and learning. So let me take you to the Cornerstone website, and you can find things there all the time. So you don't, again, have to remember things or know where they are. Just go to the website and click around a little bit, and you will see all these resources. This happens to be a screenshot of the learning site right now. And you can see we're focused on the mid-year right now, but all the other phases with learning resources, videos. If there's a webinar like this, you'll see where to register for it. Everything should really be here for you. And then we have learning resources and tools in Accelerate. And that's our e-learning library that's 24/7. And it's organized the same way. Now, if we have time, I'll show you how that looks. But you can go into Accelerate from Academica, just like you log in every day with your access ID and password. So take advantage of these things anytime you want. And some of them are just, 5-minute little quick videos. How do I do that? Or the user manual, you can just zero in on that one spot if you want. And you can see this webinar is why we're recording it today. Those will be up here as well. All right. I'm going to put in a couple more links, but as we're wrapping up and opening it up to questions, just remembering the big picture, as we do the day-to-day. Again, today, for this webinar, it took us way longer than it actually takes to complete any of these steps, but there are small investments that should pay off in really big ways. That's really what we hope, that this process is much, much more valuable than it has ever been, and we make it more valuable by learning together. So overall, we're doing it to achieve our goals, to learn and grow and develop, to provide career opportunities and planning and management of that. So we have opportunities right here at Wayne State, and don't have to look elsewhere for that. So I'm excited about it, but it's all about our ability to use it and know why. So hopefully you're getting something out of it, just to keep us on track and perform. Our leaders get something out of it because they can have a great platform to capture things, talk to us. It flags them about things, so that reminds them in their busy days like us. And there's support in learning on, how do I have a conversation like that? I'm not comfortable, or I've never done that before. And the opposite is true. Look at all these people in this webinar right now. We have people who are doing this well and have done this well and have great tips, experiences to share. So, learning is not just about a one-way thing. It's about what are we all experiencing and how can we get better? So it makes Wayne State a better place to be in the end as well. And, keeps great people coming back. Now, I do have one more little pulse poll at the end. I'm going to launch it into the chat for you. And I'm going to open it up as well. I'll leave this poll open now just to help us understand if this webinar is helpful, where you're at, and it guides us in creating more learning resources as well. So feel free to answer the poll. I'll leave that open, like I said, but I'll also just open it up to questions, whether it's about the mid-year check-in, whether it's about any aspect of Cornerstone or the performance management process. Feel free to chime in. Is there a way to get a copy? So what we have done is recorded this meeting. In fact, I'm actually going to stop recording right now because we probably don't need the rest of this. But I will have a recording of this session, so you will be able to see that. We also have, I don't know if we have the PowerPoint slides exactly, but we do have the job aids. We have the videos. So there's going to be a lot of different resources. The main place to get them, Sharon, is the Cornerstone website or Accelerate, our e-learning library. Hopefully that's helpful. Other questions? Great question. Thank you. I'm going to stop the recording as well.